and they're always like, down and out about their haircuts.
I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair club system places, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. We are live from Los Angeles and Vancouver, British Columbia. That's the other guy who is now potted up on your left. My name is Spencer Kobren, and the guy with the beautiful purple lighting in his studio is the original hair transplant mentor, Joe Tillman. I'm not going to go through the whole... It's good. I'm not going to go through the whole thing.
Don't need to.
We could do that at the end of the show.
Yep, that's fine.
Did you post in the WhatsApp group?
Did I?
Yeah.
I did not.
Because I think it's a good idea to have some of these docs call in to discuss the current state of the field all over the world. I did alert them to the fact on your post on our Facebook group, but I think it's extremely important that it's not just coming from us. The biggest problem is, and guys, let me give out the phone number. We are live. We do the show twice a week, live, so you guys can call in and interact with us. If we don't receive phone calls, essentially the show goes on for up to 2 hours for as long as we get calls. If we don't get calls, it's not happy hour yet, but it's Friday. And I can do a lot more. I can go...
It's happy hour on the East Coast and beyond happy hour in Europe.
Yeah, I can go train, and then I can go out drinking. I could choose not to train and start drinking early. There's a lot of things that I could be doing right now. So I'm going to give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. Here in the U.S. and some parts of, I think Canada can call in on toll-free, and some other parts of...
Yep.
Of the world. And we also have a UK number, which Joe will give out.
0203-3724-683. That's 0203-3724-683.
There's a lot of, I think, I want to be diplomatic about all this stuff, but the reality is we are seeing more and more misinformation being put out there online about the reality of what's happening in this industry. I will tell you that I certainly believe that everyone should be out there doing their own research. And part of doing their own research is tuning into broadcasts like this. Well, this is the only broadcast of its kind, where there are true experts in the field, guys who have been in the trenches, who know where all the bodies are buried, who understand the reality of what's happening behind the scenes in the hair transplant field, and actually who work in the hair transplant industry and are willing to expose those bodies and those bones and tell you guys the truth. For those out there who are making claims that you will be able to find your own truth, sadly, I wish it was that easy, but it is important that you do find, and I hate that term, your own truth as well. So
loathe that term.
Yeah, utilize the access that you have to us and this program, and then take that information and go to wherever, Facebook or YouTube, and watch videos and do your thing, and then make an assessment for yourself. But it's vitally important that you understand that anyone who claims that the information provided on this program is something that you guys can get yourselves is sadly and sorely misinformed. And I just needed you guys to put that out there. You can make an assessment on who to go to have surgery with if you have surgery, which I believe surgery is the last resort. But you will never, ever get the truth. No one's telling it. They're telling it as they may have seen it from one or two personal experiences, but they don't understand the total of this industry and what it's all about.
They may know the truth based on what their consultant tells them.
Oh, yeah. And that's very interesting. And I'm actually going to have to speak to this one doctor about that, because this particular consultant that I'm thinking of, and that maybe you're considering, has a very skewed view of reality, in my view, and the truth. He seems like a very lovely guy, at least when I've spoken to him on the phone, and he did have one of his physicians that he used to work for apply to the organization years ago, and I was not able to take him on board based on a couple of things, including time on tissue, and he was very cordial. And he was like, I understand. And I think he appreciated that I would not take their money just because they were offering it. But something has shifted. I don't know if there's some sort of a desperateness happening, or just I don't understand, a sense of celebrity, perhaps. I don't know.
I have no idea, but I would like to say, and I think this, everyone knows this, but it bears repeating. I don't sit here next to this guy. Am I pointing the right way?
No.
No, this guy. I don't sit here next to this guy and work and do what I do, making videos and telling people about my experience in the industry and what I feel people need to understand for free. I do sit here next to him for free. We don't officially work together, but I'm in this industry because this is what I do for a living.
Well, I would say it's official. I would say we just don't, there's no money exchanged.
What did I say?
We don't officially work together. I would say it's pretty official. We collaborate.
Yeah. We collaborate officially, but there's no money exchange. This is both of us volunteering our time to answer people's questions based on our own experiences and our experiences in the industry, and to try to talk people out of surgery. I was the first person on YouTube to come up with a video that says, do not have a hair transplant. Spencer was the first guy in the industry, period, to write a book about not having hair transplantation surgery.
Which did not go over well by those in the industry. Well. And by many who do pay, initially, by many who now and have been for many years, pay a screening fee, their dues to be part of the IHRS. Here's the reality. The bottom line is this. I do not have to be doing this broadcast at all. I would actually probably be making a little bit more money if I wasn't doing this broadcast, because I'm out there pounding the pavement, telling you guys the truth, face forward, about what's going on in the industry. All I have to do is shut down, and everything runs like an annuity for me, and will grow exponentially. The number of applications that we receive to the IHRS is insane. I actually have I have an interesting meeting coming up in the next. I think it's going to be more like a tribunal, but it's going to be fun anyway to go.
Yeah.
And I am probably going to be bringing just the applications for that week, just to show these people of this committee of a big organization, of how and who is applying, how many and who is applying to the organization on a weekly basis. So when anyone says that there are certain secrets out there of the industry, there are no secrets. The secret is that everybody is trying to somehow hustle their way into this field to make a fucking living. I have been doing that, not hustling, but making a living in this industry for well over 21 years. And the first way that I made a living was becoming an international best-selling author and the most read person in the field and in the world on this subject. So my reality is a lot different than those guys who are, selling laser helmets and shit like that on YouTube. My reality is I cut off this broadcast. I go off into the sunset. I can even take my name off everything and no one knows the fucking difference. And the checks just keep rolling in. That's the truth.
Yeah.
So if anyone's saying that, they're talking about the truth, you can get your own truth, that's the real truth.
Yeah, and there is only one truth.
And no one has the balls to tell you that truth. So you're not going to see me hawking TBT t-shirts or telling you, to click on this link or whatever it is. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what I do. We are here to provide you with a safe place to get your information, to learn things that you will never learn on anybody's YouTube channel, on anybody's website. And
except for this one.
Oh, except for yours.
Except for this one, yeah.
And this one. And that's it. And then you take that information and you go and you watch everybody else's YouTube stuff, and then you take their information and you put it all together and you figure out your own fucking way through this. We're just giving you easy access to navigate this insane industry. So, and I just wanted to say that. And listen, believe me, I don't give a shit. People have the right to do whatever they want to do. Let them, God bless them, let them make a living. But don't misinform people. Don't give people a false impression like there's some sort of dirty secrets.
That's the big thing. It's like when you're doing your thing, that's great. God bless you. More power to you. But when you start talking about, the industry with falsehoods and misdirection, that's, I don't know about you, but that's when I come out and start talking about that stuff. And it's happened already. And when people start talking about things that are just downright harmful to people, I'm going to call them out.
Look,
because I can't stand that. It's harming patients with false information, and I don't know. I might have to do it again soon. We'll see.
Well, here's the story. I say fuck it. It doesn't make a difference. I wanted to put that out there because it's unfortunate that these things continue to occur. One thing I learned in my life is, no one's going to ever be able to come back to me in 20 years and say, yeah, when I was in high school with Kobren, he used to smoke a lot of pot. You know why? Yeah. Because I tell people that I used to like to smoke pot. And I used to like to drink. I still like to drink. And let's see, what else did I did when I was younger? I used to smoke cigarettes. I had quite a lot of sex. Just about everything that normal people do when they're young.
Wait a minute. You were normal as a kid?
Well, I was normal in that respect. I wasn't normal up here. You saw, I came out and I just did my hair. You saw me connect with you on the air wearing my respirator.
That's right.
That's not normal. But the reality is none of us are perfect people, and anybody that puts themselves out there as being perfect, sadly, it will bite them in the ass at some point in life. So my whole, absolutely. When I started the IHRS, I was working with the National Advertising Division of the Better Business Bureau, a guy by the name of, I'll give his first name out because I don't know if he wants his last name out there, but the head attorney for many years of the NAD, his first name was Wayne. And I told him what I wanted to do with the IHRS, and he essentially guided me on the legalities of doing what I was doing, including it was his suggestion not to have any online consultations. Now, you have to understand, this is the main counsel for the National Advertising Division of the Better Business Bureau. Him and I, including a team at the NAD, were the people that led the investigation. They led the investigation, and I basically threw the hammer down on a product called Avicor and did all of the legwork for them, and also provided them with everything they needed so that they can essentially say, look, you guys are doing something that's probably not right. There were tremendous fines. The company did survive. It was bought out, but they changed all of the false claims and everything that alleged false claims that are being made, and there was a big expose. Long story short, we have been doing everything in our power over the last 20 some odd years to provide full disclosure to all of you guys. So if some 30-year-old kid comes out and makes some sort of claims based on some hearsay that he may have said, as though you guys don't know that we get paid to work in this industry and we figure out a way to get paid to tell the truth, then, you know, I think that this person really needs to do their homework and not present hearsay and misinformation to the public as fact, because the reality is that can get a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
Sadly,
absolutely.
worst of all, the consumer. Anyway, phone number is 888-659-3727. Not sure why I brought up the NAD, but anyway, I may be doing something else with them soon, which is exciting. You know, sadly, the industry is really going to hell in a handbasket, and the industry itself doesn't understand how to control that. And part of being able to control that is really focusing on the, which is really lax, because they don't have the FTC and other federal organizations or even legislative bodies, just they don't have the bodies, the manpower to take a close look at these claims that are being made by these turnkey operators.
Right.
Where, frankly, you know, once you get the NAD involved, they can then put those claims up the chain of command, you know, and take a closer look, and warning letters can go out, and, you know, things can change. And just a simple letter from, say, the NAD could really help to eliminate some of the false advertising, like scarless procedures or, you know, things that are happening out there. You know, sadly, the main organization doesn't know how to get that shit done. But I do, and I think we're going to be able to at least affect that level of change in a relatively short period of time, at least here in the U.S. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's actually potentially pretty big, so good stuff.
Guys, phone number 888-659-3727. Let's get straight to the phones and stop with the inside baseball. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, sorry. Hello. Yep. Sorry, my name.
Can't hear you, dude. Just lost you. Sounds like Sounds like you're calling from the UK or something.
Hang on, 2 secs.
All right.
Hello. Is that better?
That is much better.
There we go.
Yeah. Sorry. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, not much. Yourself?
Can't complain. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Ryan. I'm calling from the UK.
Okay. Where in the UK?
Ryan?
Kent. It's basically 40 minutes from London. It's just the easiest way to explain.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just got a real quick question. Basically, what are your thoughts on someone taking? Well, I was originally taking 2.5 milligrams of finasteride, and I've recently cut it down to 1. Well, I just cut that pill in half, so I just basically saving money and just stop reordering it all the time. Basically, I mean, what are the side effects? Well, not the side effects. What's mostly likely going to be the outcome of it? I mean, am I going to lose any more hair, or is it just going to be the sense of?
Well, let me stop you there for a second. So you're taking 2.5 milligrams. First of all, we have to state this clearly and preface everything we say by letting you know we're not physicians.
Yeah.
So, and we're not giving any medical advice. But how long have you been on finasteride, and how long were you taking 2.5 milligrams?
So I mean, I've been taking finasteride for about 3 or 4 years. Originally, I was taking 1 milligram, and then I bumped up. Then I bought basically, it was cheaper to buy the 5 milligram ones, but obviously I wasn't taking them as a whole. I was cutting them in half, and then obviously that's what, I'm just taking 2.5, and then I recently just to basically stop me keep reordering it, saving a little bit of money. Cut that down.
So you just basically decided, okay, you're going to order a Proscar or 5 milligrams of finasteride. You're going to cut it in half because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like cutting it in quarters, and you just popped the entire 2.5. It had nothing to do with you wanted to get better gains. It was just...
No, yeah, sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to sort of like, you know, hit it hard. So go for the 2.5.
All right, how old are you?
I am now 24.
Okay, so you started using it when you were 21.
Yeah, roughly about that.
All right, now let's talk about any side effects. Have you had any adverse side effects?
Not as such, no, not really. I can't really say that I've had much side effects.
Okay.
Otherwise, I definitely would have noticed it.
Okay, well, good. That's great to hear, and I think it's important for young guys to know that, and that's why I always ask. You know, some people may not realize they're having side effects, but they actually are. But in general, when it comes to your dick and it comes to sex, you know what's happening.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hold on. People are texting me. They know I'm on the radio. They don't understand this. So, you wanted to hit it hard at 2.5. Now, this is what could happen. How long have you been on 2.5 now?
I'd say...
The entire time?
Yeah. No, I'd say probably about a year.
Okay. Did you notice? Did you notice any difference from when you went from 1 milligram to 2.5 milligrams, as far as the cessation of your hair loss or the reversal of the miniaturization process? Any regrowth?
I noticed that I was probably losing. I don't know if it was just my mind playing tricks, but I definitely thought like the crown stopped thinning. The thing is, I thought the crown stopped thinning when I very first started taking the finasteride, and about a year into it, that was 1 mg, and then I just bumped it. I was like, okay, I'm happy with the results, so I bumped it up to 2.5, and then I didn't really notice anything. So, I mean, that's the outcome of that.
Okay, well, here's the thing, and I'm going to let Joe answer as well. You know, when people start to play with their dosage, we notice a couple of things. Sometimes people will notice an improvement when they increase their dosage, even though most doctors will tell you, and same with Merck, that there is really no appreciable difference between taking a 1 milligram dosage or a 5 milligram dosage when it comes to hair. Based on our experience, in my experience, there definitely seems to be some dose-dependent scenarios. I believe the drug is dose-dependent, but I'm not a doctor or a scientist. So once your body gets adjusted to a certain dosage of a medication, it's basically called titrating, right? So you titrate the dosage to see what works best for in your system without side effects and with the best level of growth. Just because you did well on 1 milligram and then you went up to 2.5 milligrams and you're not seeing much of a difference, and now you want to go back to 1 milligram, it doesn't mean that once you go back to that 1 milligram that you're not going to see a problem, that you're not going to see a potential shed. That's always a possibility. Now, you may not, because the good news is you did well on 1 milligram. You're also young and young in the process. So your body reacts, and adjusts more. And again, we're not physicians, but adjusts in most cases more effectively than an older person. So your body may adjust just fine, and when you go back to the 1 milligram. But if it's simply to save a couple of bucks, I would talk to your doctor about this, but I don't know if I would fuck with it at this point. If you're not having side effects, if you're keeping your hair, and you've been doing this for over a year, it just seems that it could be counterproductive by messing with it. I don't know, Joe, what do you think?
Well, personally, I think that before we continue, you don't know if in the past week I got my medical degree. He keeps saying I'm not a doctor.
That is true.
He's always assuming.
I'm going to let you answer, but that's a very funny thing. For a while there, I was actually thinking, because all these guys are like always bitching that I'm not a doctor and then I'm in this position.
Yeah.
And I had this fantasy of actually going to medical school and just one day putting that out on Facebook, here you go, motherfuckers. Now I'm Dr. Kobren.
I just want, I'm almost willing to go to one of these online universities where you pay for a doctorate.
Oh, dude,
Dr. Tillman.
I think Andrew Zarian's a doctor of some sort of. He can marry people.
I wouldn't doubt that with him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, go ahead.
So, first off, good to hear your voice, Ryan. I hope you're doing well.
Hello, Johnny. How you doing? Good?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. So what Spencer said is basically correct. We're not doctors. But no, in all seriousness, I've been dealing with finasteride for 15 years myself, and when I was working in clinics, I was seeing patients on a daily basis, dealing with them day in and day out, and I can tell you just from my personal observation, I never experienced this myself, but from my personal observation, I have seen patients that would be on a 1 milligram or even be on a 2.5 and then go up to the full 5 and then try to back down to 2.5 or to 1 over time. And they would experience some sort of shed. They would experience some sort of loss, some sort of telogen effluvium that they weren't experiencing before. Some cases, excuse me. Some cases it resolved itself. Other times it did not. And the challenge here is, just because you don't see something working for you doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you on the other side of the spectrum if you stop with the dosage. So more specifically, you've moved up to 2.5. You're not seeing a big difference, but it doesn't mean that if you go back down to 1 that you won't have some sort of negative side effect from that. Like Spencer was saying. So there might be some sort of temporary shed, there might not be. I'm of the personal opinion that once you get to a certain dosage, if you are increasing, if you don't think it's making any difference, just forget about it and continue that dosage and maybe introduce something else into your mix a few months later. I'm a big fan of sticking with a medication or sticking with a change in that medication for no less than 6 months solid before you make any sort of determination.
Well, I don't think he's even concerned about what's going on. I think hold on, why is that not working? I think he's more concerned about saving a little money.
It is literally only like maybe like 5 or 10 quid a month. I mean, it's a small price to pay in the long run.
But that's a drink, right? That's a Guinness right there.
Yeah. Depends where in the UK.
I have no idea how much a Guinness costs in the UK. And do you guys still drink Guinness? I have no clue.
I don't personally. I think it's horrid stuff. But yeah, 4 or 6 quid depending on where you go. So whether that is in dollars now these days.
Do they sell a lot of Budweiser in the UK?
Oh yeah, hugely.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Budweiser.
It's a huge import. I'll tell you, the funny thing is, when I had these guys over at my place, and I drink Budweiser, I'm like, that here in the U.S., that's like a blue collar beer. So if I try to order a Budweiser around here in Beverly Hills, they don't even have it. I can't even believe it. So
really,
yeah, they don't. If I go to the Peninsula to order a Budweiser, they look at me like, just please leave. So. I had all this Budweiser in the house, and I had Heinekens and all kinds of other beers, and Specs went right for the Bud. Like, it was like this, like, really beautiful import. And I found that interesting. So anyway, go ahead. I'm just, I digress. So.
Who?
Go ahead. Either one of you guys. Ryan, Joe, whoever
Ryan,
wants to talk.
Like, if it's a price issue, then, just weigh the cost of the difference and make your decision. Yeah. But I think that once you get to this point, even if it is, it's obviously more expensive. I think that if you can handle it, then just stick with it, because I'm just not a fan of changing things, especially if you're increasing a dosage, and you still don't see anything. It's like, just hold steady, man. Don't reduce the dosage. If you feel like you have to, do it slowly. Ease yourself back into it. So maybe if you're taking 2.5 now, then are you taking it every day or every other day?
No. I'm taking 2.5 before I go to bed. Yeah.
Okay, so if you do wind up getting to the point where you do want to reduce back down to 1, then ease yourself into it and maybe do 2.5 every other day, and the in-between day can be the 1 milligram. So ease yourself down that for a few months and eventually get back. But dropping back down cold turkey, I just think it's a bad idea.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I mean, I mean, yeah, okay. I think that's probably what I would do then. Ease yourself off it, or maybe even just stick to that routine 2.5, then 1 point, whatever it is.
And then you could use that £5 for our new Patreon page. I'm just kidding. we haven't started that yet, but we should.
We should actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, also, sorry, another question. I've had a look online, and there's a lot of mixed reviews as well. I mean, in your opinion, I mean, does Propecia affect the temples? Would you say that
I would say that in my case, the first thing that I noticed when I started to use finasteride was I was actually thinning on the sides, and it completely reversed that. And what most people will tell you who meet me, or even if you see me, is that part of one of the strongest aspects of my hair is the sides and my temporal points.
Yeah,
they come out pretty close to my eyebrows, and for a guy who's in his 50s. So I believe that they maintained and actually reversed the miniaturization in that area that I was experiencing back in my 20s.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, because I spoke to Joe in the week about using minoxidil on the temples, because I think I was going to come. I did stop that, and I did. I don't know if it's I did stop that, and I don't know if it's my mind playing it is, but I thought it was getting a little bit thinner. So that's another question as well. I mean, I know Joe's answered this, so maybe for everyone who's watching, minoxidil on the side of the temples. I mean, what's your thoughts on that as well?
Listen, I've seen it work for people. The problem is I believe minoxidil is a Band-Aid, and it has a very relatively, most doctors will say that it never stops working, but for whatever reason, I think that, hormones are just stronger than using a topical vasodilator. And in time, hormones will take over. So I think it's okay and that it could help, but don't expect long-term results with it. I do believe that finasteride does help with every area of the scalp. And I've also seen it work on people who have varying degrees of, of hair loss in the nape, varying degrees of hair loss over the ears, which is, Joe, give me the name of that alopecia, which I can't remember, retrograde alopecia.
Retrograde alopecia, yeah.
And I've seen it even reverse retrograde alopecia, where a lot of guys with retrograde alopecia get, for whatever reason, great results on top, but they still remain to have, they still keep that retrograde alopecia, but I've seen it reverse. So it really depends. For me, the first thing I noticed was, you guys are too young to know who Bozo the Clown is, but the clown sides really started to thicken up within the first 3 months. And then everything else started to thicken up, including my crown. And frankly, while my hairline has receded to some degree over the last 20-some-odd years, maybe 1/4 of an inch, if that, which seems like a lot. But, I mean, I had a low hairline when I was a kid. I showed Joe a picture of myself, and it was a big hair, like crazy.
It was big hair.
And so I had some room for the hairline to go up. And but it's basically maintained everything. And it's just been a slow, very slow, progressive situation for me, where I do wear a little bit more makeup now than I did, say, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But, it's been a really great experience, and you seem to be getting good results. I believe, and that's a good question, I believe it could help at least retain your sides. Do you notice, and we're going to take another call in a second, guys, do you notice that your sides have gotten worse since you've been on finasteride?
Not really, no. I've been taking, like I said, I've been taking finasteride for a while, but my temples have generally have always been quite thin, but then it's only recently that I've noticed maybe, I don't know if it's my mind playing on it, where I've stopped minoxidil, that it's slightly getting a little bit thinner.
Well, if you were using minoxidil in that area, then you could have been retaining some hair in that area from the minoxidil. And also, anytime you get off it or on it, you're going to go through a shed in most cases. So you may have, if you stopped using it on your temporal. So you're talking about your temporal peaks, right? You're talking about the points, the temporal points by the side of your scalp.
Yeah.
My father really screwed me up. You're not supposed to point. As a Jewish kid, you're not supposed to point on yourself when you're talking about something negative. It's called a kanahara. That's how fucked up that's what I come from. So anyway, I would say that just by stopping minoxidil, you may have caused that, and it could regrow. Or you can get back on it, but eventually you're going to go back to baseline, even if you're on minoxidil for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So you might want to just wait it out and see how it goes, just on finasteride.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been taking it for a while. I mean, I've definitely done something for me. Otherwise, I think I would definitely be in a much worse position than I would be. So, yeah, I will be. I'll just keep it at 2.5, maybe 1.25 every other day, just see how I get on and see how it works out for myself. And then, obviously, if there's any changes, then I'll just jump back on 2.5.
Yeah, and you know what? Just be careful. I really believe that if you're at a certain point right now and you're satisfied, and now you're telling me that you feel like you may have lost a little ground since you stopped using minoxidil, it might not be the time to change anything else right now. Just just consider that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not giving you medical advice. It's just my own perspective. I have to keep saying that because there are crazy people out there in this world. You
never know.
All of a sudden, Kobren's giving medical advice. He's a non-medic clinic guy, whatever they call me. So, but anyway, listen, I appreciate the call. It's always good to hear from a young guy who's having success on finasteride. I find it to be so sad and such a shame that because of all the fear-mongering out there, and I'm not saying that some of it isn't justified, but so many guys aren't given the chance, like you took that chance to save their hair, where they could go through decades of the best time of their life with their hair, just by popping a pill.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I like hearing stories like yours, man. So listen, thank you so much for the call.
No worries.
All right.
See you later, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
See you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
The phone number is 888-659-3727. We're going to take your calls in a minute. And guys, thanks. We do have a line open if you want to call in, 888-659-3727. Those in the UK, it's, I should remember this by now, but I have to look it up. It's
0203-3724-683. That's 0203-3724-683.
Now, I want to, I don't know if you're listening, Mr. Likas. Or anybody from the Likas camp, but it was announced this week that Tom Likas will be going off the air. We call it the air still, even though it's the internet.
Off the wires.
Off the wires. He will no longer be doing his live broadcast, which I find to be an utter shame. This is a guy who has forgotten more about broadcasting than I will ever know. This is a guy who is just, hold on. All right. Give me a second.
What?
Yeah. But this is a guy who really is really well known in the West Coast of the United States, but who, while I'm not really close personal friends with him, he has been kind enough to let me in the studio and hang out when he was on Real Radio, anytime I wanted to hang out and watch his show. His associate producer was my producer, Dean J. D'Amelio, for many years, until I had a canned Dean, which he's still very passive-aggressive about, but I'll just file that away. Look, dude, it was a business I was running. What am I going to do? Very much unlike radio. And, I have been an independent broadcaster for more than 21 years, and I started off as a paid talent, not paid very much because it was weekend programming, but paid enough. And I chose to broker time because what was happening with this broadcast is it was the only hair loss broadcast. It was an easy sell to the bad guys. And as a consumer advocate, I could not allow, at the time, the big players in the games to advertise on the broadcast. So the reason I'm bringing all of this up is that, I learned about the game of independent broadcasting from a very young age. And if you're listening, Tom, and if Dean is listening, I want you to know that I'm here to, if you need any help, to stay on the air, because there's really no reason. You have the following, you have the ability to make it happen, and I think, kind of working with the old school radio model in this new world of broadcasting, it just doesn't work. There are other ways to keep yourself and maintain sustainability. And I think you going off the air, Tom, is a great disservice to so many young men out there who I believe really need your advice. So feel free to give me a call. I would love to do something to help you or with you, just guide you in the right direction. But I heard the news actually late. I just heard it today, and I was like, oh, shit. One of the greats cannot make it on the internet.
That's disappointing. I don't know a lot about Tom Likas, but I've heard him in the past, and I know his reputation. And yeah, that's kind of disappointing.
He's a powerful broadcaster, incredibly intelligent guy. But like I said, he's forgotten more about the business about broadcasting than I'll ever know. But the business of independent broadcasting is a very unique business, and this has been my life for 21 years. So there's a lot that I could be. All the advice would be free, Tom, if you happen to hear this show, and you might, because I know Dean listens. So sad day, sad day in broadcasting. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Augie from Fort Worth, Texas.
Augie from Texas.
Augie.
How are you, man?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
All right, man. What's going on?
So, I recently found out that I was losing my hair this year. I'm 28 years old. I found out back in March, and ever since then I've been obsessed with it and doing research and stressing out about it. So I know that you've been involved with this topic for quite some time.
I've been losing my hair for 30 years, dude. So
well, it looks like you have your hair, so I'd like to have the hair that you have, but by the time I'm older, so. But
how dare you? Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, you look good. You look good.
Thank you.
So I started off with minoxidil. I was a little hesitant, but then I started. I experienced a shed, like, what usually comes with minoxidil, and then I started letting it grow for a little bit, but I still see the crown, and it's strange for me because I've never seen it in my entire life, and it just hit me all at once, and I started getting sad and depressed, and so I just shaved it all off. So this year I've been bald for 3 or 4 times this year, just so I can see what the future holds and what is to come. And it's depressing. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
it's something that's new.
Well, let me tell you this. First of all, bravo for taking the initiative and having the courage to shave your head.
Yeah.
We live in a time now where that's an option. And not everyone looks good with it. Not everyone feels comfortable with it. I understand that. But in my day, that was not an option unless I decided to tattoo a swastika on my chest or look like I was, dealing with some sort of a disease or cancer. So now you guys at least have that option. Doesn't mean, and this is what bothers me about the mainstream media and about every time I'm questioned by a reporter or even at a party wherever I am, everyone's just like, well, what's the big deal? Why don't guys just shave their heads? It's because most of us don't look as good as we did with hair, and a lot of us look. I always say I would look like Kane from Kung Fu. I would look ridiculous, I think, with a shaved head.
That's my favorite comparison.
With I would look like some guy from the fucking future with a shaved head. So, first of all, tell me how you look right now. I know that you're sad about things, but I mean, realistically and objectively, if you can be objective, it's hard to be. When you look in the mirror with a shaved head, how do you look?
Well, with the shaved head, I look different for sure. I mean, I prefer to have hair. Right now, I have hair. It's just thinning out. And if I could keep what I have right now, that'd be great. But I know that it's inevitable. I'm only getting older, and I'm only going to keep losing my hair. So
But when you look at yourself with a shaved head, forget about the loss, the sense of loss. Objectively, like if you see a picture of yourself, or your friends, or your mother, or your girlfriend, or boyfriend, or whatever you have in life, what do they say? How do they comment on how you look? Have you asked them?
No, I don't. They don't comment on it. I mean, they've seen me with it, and I kind of just make jokes about it. I kind of just went head first and just try to tackle it head on and just accept it. You know, it takes courage to go out there and do it, and that's kind of a challenge that I took upon myself to. It's now or never, and I've experienced it. And that's part of why I did it. Is so I know that I can go through this and I can deal with it.
Well, that right there that's empowering, man. I mean, that's a powerful thing that you did for yourself. And I will tell you this, the fact that no one said anything means that you probably look pretty good, because most mothers are the worst. They would be like, oh my God, what did you do to yourself? You know? So you must look pretty good with a shaved head. So that should be freeing as far as your depression is concerned. At least I hope that it would be.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. But I just had a few questions for you, since there's a lot of debate out there as far as what the cause of male pattern baldness is. I know that there's a lot of debate, and it's not a set stone or fact, but there's theories out there such as DHT, stress, and I've looked into the scalp tightening, the tightness of the scalp, the Galea aponeurotica. If you look at the scalp, you'll see that the muscles around the skull, it kind of outlines where I guess the baldness.
There was a time when they actually were performing a procedure back in my day. A barbaric, sad procedure where they would essentially put a chisel in your head and separate the galea and loosen that area from the scalp. You probably read about that.
Yes.
With claims of hair growth. Now, let me tell you something. If that were the case, if it were that easy, most people would trade that scar for that procedure and to keep their hair. Thousands upon thousands of men have had that done, at least back in my day. And, you're going to read a lot of shit on the internet. That's all I'm going to tell you. Here's what we know. It's called androgenetic alopecia. And the reason it was named that is because it's thought to be, and at least it's been studied, and right now the theory is essentially, science, sometimes theories change. But right now it's seen as fact that it's a combination of genetics and androgens that cause male pattern hair loss. And it's the conversion, and what they found is in most cases, the majority, the inflammation has something to do with it to some degree, but the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone and the sensitivity to that dihydrotestosterone by those who are genetically predisposed to be sensitive to that is the cause of male pattern hair loss. So the reason why finasteride works in about 80 to 86%, 86% clinically of those who use it to stop this, it works as far as stopping the cessation or stopping the progression of hair loss, is because DHT plays such a huge role. Now, there are other factors that can be involved. There could be trauma, stress, extreme stress could absolutely cause hair loss. But in general, most scientists and most men of science and women of science and most experts will say that DHT is the main culprit at this point. Joe, what are your thoughts on that? Joe?
Sorry, I was distracted by some things going on in the chat room.
Joe, we were talking about transsexuals and hairline replacement.
Oh, your date last week.
Look, don't knock it till you try it, dude.
No, I was just curious, just because there has to be more than just that. I mean, I was watching this YouTube channel. I think it's Danny Roddy, I believe. He talks about like alternative theories of as to why men go bald, and he talks about things such as the thyroid. There's other things.
Well, yeah, I mean,
necessarily.
Absolutely. You know, hypo or hyperthyroid can cause hair loss.
There are all kinds of things. I mean, you can look at diet. You can look at if you want to dig deep, you can look at how food is processed today compared to 50 years ago or 100 years ago. The meat that you eat is full of hormones and antibiotics, depending on which country you're in. The foods that you eat, the vegetables you eat, are treated with pesticides and fertilizers that accelerate growth. It's like, what are these doing to your insides? How are these contributing to the possibility of a link to your hair loss? I've had patients in my experience, in my history in the industry, talking to me about how their hair physically hurts before it starts to fall out. That it's tender at the base of the hair shaft in a specific area, like in the crown. They can touch the skin, and it's tender to the touch. You can get into issues where you got an inflammation going on, and so that can kind of lead into the idea of, well, there's some sort of reaction going on in your body, and it's fighting it by having a consistent low-grade inflammation, which is not good for anyone. You can have internal low-grade inflammation. It's why some people talk about gluten and how it affects your body, and people talk about taking curcumin and turmeric, which are natural anti-inflammatories, to help combat that. There's so many things that people talk about, and I think that there is a little bit of truth to all of it. But the major factor for male pattern hair loss comes down to DHT and how it's affecting you on the genetic level. We all have DHT. It's just is your genetic makeup one that predisposes you to being susceptible to that DHT and how it affects the hair follicle. All it does, it's a byproduct of testosterone being affected by type 2 5-alpha reductase enzyme and type 1 to some degree. So, the finasteride gets in between those, prevents so much of that DHT being created, which causes hair loss in people that have that genetic predisposition. There are other reasons, but I think that, the cumulative effect of all these different reasons isn't as strong as the genetic component that finanasteride's been helping us with.
Right, and it just seems like it's almost impossible to know what exactly, because like you said, it's a cumulative of a number of things that are
potentially, yeah. I mean, if you're eating right, like if you're eating consciously, where you know that your food is, like, if you eat a lot of beef, grass-fed, no antibiotics, no hormones, which is, you can get more now than you could 5-10 years ago. Your vegetables. Are you eating a lot of sugar in your diet? I'm a big believer in a low sugar intake because
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Joe agrees with that. Joe from Staten Island. So, all these things do contribute, but it doesn't mean that all of these things are happening to contribute in one cumulative result. I think that you might have some of these other issues. Pick and choose,
Really?
But look into these things and research your food, research the sugar, research. I think one of the guys in the chat room is talking about even looking at the tie-in between being a vegan or not eating meat at all. There are all kinds of things out there, but I don't want people to get so obsessed with this that they start researching every little thing and trying to come up with these connections, because ultimately it's the DHT thing. It's the DHT issue. Right. We know that, and there are situations where someone may have a really strong reaction to something that can cause hair loss. I get it, but male pattern hair loss in general is DHT related, and you might have other things that contribute, but not nearly as much as the genetic component.
Yeah, and there's just so many questions too, like just in general with like why the pattern. You know, it's strange. For a while, I had a little bit of hope because of the Galea aponeurotica. It just kind of, for whatever reason, it made sense to me when I read there was a study out there, and it might be a fake study, or it might be debunked, or whatever you want to call it. I think it was called the dutumescence theory. I think it's by Dr. Choi, in which participants were massaging their scalp for approximately like 20 to 40 minutes a day for 6 months or something like that. And the study claims that those people recovered all their hair.
See, the sad part about this, and it's not, and again, I don't want to cut you off, and I absolutely, and I've read everything, and I wanted to believe in everything, and I'm still very open to everything. The sad part is this type of information has been around since way before, in some cases, real drugs and real pharmaceuticals that actually were able to stop hair loss. Some of the theories, like the Galea or the Galea, that's one of the first things that I looked at, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is it, man! I'm going to go in. I'm going to get this taken care of right away." And you know, I mean, and then I was in touch with people. I'm not even going to say who in what country who were doing this, and actually took the time to track down people who had it done. You're talking about the late 80s. All right? There was no internet. This was some fucking legwork. So the reality is we all want an answer. And currently the answer that we have is what seems to be working for most people are the FDA-approved medications, surgical hair restoration as a last resort, maybe low-level laser light therapy, and now it seems like PRP, the right type of PRP for the right person, can slow or prevent the progression of hair loss if it's something that has to be done on a consistent basis. It's a treatment.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sadly really what we have right now. And I mean, if you go in and you get your, you get your Galea patted down and separated from your scalp, and your hair grows back, you let me know. We'll have you on the show.
I'll come to Dallas to see
right.
you.
Right.
I'd be the first person in history, right?
You know, and and if you can massage your scalp, and I will give the American Hair Loss Association seal to whatever massager that you use to grow your hair back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All of us are pretty much just hanging on to hope, to whatever. Maybe something's out there. There's always a new. There's always something new out there. Breaking news at 5 to 10 years or 2 to. I know that there's a few things out there like RU. I don't even know the numbers to it, but
RU5 8841. That's not new. That's been around for well over 25 years.
Yeah.
You know,
and there's always.
But sadly, there's 200,000 of us waking up for the first time as young people, realizing we're losing our hair, and there's always a new wave. And the internet has brought out all of the gray market bullshit again.
I was going to say, it's like, 200,000 young people every day wake up and realize that they're losing their hair, and 4 people every day find RU and think it's something new.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a new thing.
Well, the only things that I've tried was minoxidil, and I tried a quarter of a milligram of finasteride because I was just so scared. And then I tried that for 1 week, and then I don't know if it was a combination of lack of sleep or whatever, but I had a breakdown, and I was bald, so I mean that kind of plays. Because I shaved my head, it kind of plays a role too. And I just had a breakdown. I started crying in front of my family, and I just really wanted to minimize anything that would contribute to depression, and I just couldn't see myself taking it in the long run. I don't know.
Look. Here's the thing. And, in all seriousness, obviously, you're young. This is relatively new to you. You're going through the initial throes of it. the fact that you took charge early on and gave shaving your head a try is a really good sign. You're going to go through the process of mourning your hair. You could take finasteride and talk to your doctor about it, and probably, there's a good chance you will save a lot of your hair if that's where you want to go. But if you don't want to take medication, like you said, for the rest of your life, if you believed that taking that medication put you in that mindset, altered your brain in any way to the point where you broke down in front of your family, as opposed to it just being like something that was weighing on your mind so heavily, plus you just pop this pill that everyone on the internet is saying is poison, that can give you a breakdown in itself. The real winners in this game are the guys that can cut their hair short or shave their head and move on. Yep. Those are the biggest winners. I'm not a winner in this game. I am a 53-year-old man who has to take medication every day and paint his head to maintain a semblance of a full-looking head of hair because I was not equipped to do what you did at your age. So you would be the winner, in my view, if you can eventually get to the point where you can just say, fuck it, I feel good.
I agree 100%. And I was the kind of guy that, I was kind of, I don't want to say suckered, but kind of suckered into having hair transplant surgery at a young age when I didn't need it, and wound up having 2, not just 1. And the only reason why I didn't wind up being a head shaver after the fact is because it wasn't so much the scar tissue in the back. I had 2 scars in the back of my head because of the bad work, and I knew that if I was shaving it, it would stand out like tree trunks in a field after the field's been cut down, and it would be too obvious. And so that's the only I think shaving is an awesome option. If you got the head shape for it and you can pull it off, then you win. Done. That's where I would have been. That's where I would have been if I hadn't had surgery to begin with, and I was given time to kind of get used to the idea of losing my hair. That's probably where I'd be. I mean, the only thing that would prevent me from that was the 90s, and like Spencer said, I'd look like I probably have a swastika tattooed to my chest and look like a skinhead, right? So, but I mean, today, if you can do that and pull it off, then you're done.
Yeah,
just pull off like an Ali G, man, or whatever. Just cut it really short.
Yeah, I've been cutting it a lot shorter, but I was gonna say I think a lot of us are just fighters. That we really don't want to give up. That's why we're here listening, watching. I've been watching your episodes for hours and hours, and there was this girl I was talking to, and I would just play it in front of her, and I was just obsessed with it. But like I said, we're all of us are fighters. We don't want to give up just yet, and I mean, we look up to you too, because you're like I said, I'm 28, and at that age, you look really good for, you have what seems to be a full head of hair.
Wow.
And I would love to be in that position one day, but
well, we both appreciate that, and the truth of the matter is, it's possible for you to be in this position, or even better.
Yeah.
If you speak to your doctor, and you seem like you're relatively early in the process, and if finasteride works for you. So there is a possibility. That possibility does exist. You just have to be, at a point in your life where you're like, this is the choice that I want to make, and this is the direction I want to go in. Either I do this, or I'm going to choose to go bald. And that's really the choice. Now, there's no guarantee with finasteride, but at least we know that it works on a lot of people. And so it's possible that you can be in this position when you're 50, or not. But that possibility does exist. So, but I do think that if you're able to come to terms with it, even though you're still hopeful that something's going to come out, trust me, that will be breaking news. Everything would stop. You're not going to hear about it first in the Bald Truth or on a message forum. I promise you. You're going to hear it. I mean, everything would stop. Every news organization in the world would be covering the cure for hair loss. Traffic would stop. People would just leave their fucking cars on the highway. and say, "Go fuck it, I'm gonna go get this shit done. I'm not sitting here waiting in traffic. I'm gonna get a doctor."
You would see a traffic jam going to all the local banks.
Absolutely.
Guys trying to raise their credit limit so they can go get this this cure.
The divorce rate would go through the roof.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that we're going to take some more phone calls. I'm really sorry that you're going through this, and I get it. Believe me, I went through I was in a really, really dark place when I was 21, 22 years old, up until about 28 and even beyond. But I mean, before I was able to find help, I was in a really super dark place, man. And so dark, in fact, that I turned this into my career. So I totally get it. But there is life after hair loss, and you took a step that most people could never take right away, and you took it early on. So bravo for that. And
and I've also seen the brighter side of things. Also, if someone, when I shaved my head, I felt. In a way, I felt free. Like I felt like I wasn't hiding anything anymore. Like girls when they wear makeup, they go out. It's almost like they're putting on this
disguise.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I didn't have my hair, it almost felt like I was just fast forwarding to the inevitable.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to date someone that liked me for me at the time, but I give it a few months later or years later, and then I'm losing my hair, and then she leaves me.
Look,
so in a way, it was kind of like a filter.
And that's actually a very healthy way to look at it. I basically walk around. It's a sham. My hair is a sham. That's just the way that it is. It's a quasi comb over with a lot of hairspray, but I guess what empowers me is that I talk about it. So it's not like someone's going to discover something. I talk about painting my fucking head publicly. So anyway, I hear my loop. I don't know if you just turned up your stereo.
Sorry.
That's okay. So for me, that's freeing. So I could wear the comb over and do the thing and the hairspray, and if someone says anything, it's like, you know what? Go fuck yourself. Next.
And the crazy thing about it too is that I'm actually an officer, so I have to go out there and interact with the community and speak in public or.
Wow.
So
you're a cop.
Sometimes yes.
Wow. Good for you. Thanks for your service.
Very
man.
cool. Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm third year so far.
That's awesome. I've never done anything illegal, by the way.
Well, what I tell people is when I'm off, I'm off. And so, because a lot of people, they treat me a certain way and, officer, make little jokes here and there. But like I said, when I'm off, I'm off. And
look, recreational pot is legal here in LA, so I'm good.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So I was wondering too, because of, we talk about the contributing factors, things that cause hair loss. I wonder if my choice of field or the stress and night shifts. I work the graveyard shift. I'm sure it can't be. I'm sure it doesn't help in any way. I know that there's a lot of bald cops out there, bald officers out there.
Well, there are. And here's the thing. I don't know if it helps or it hurts, but the reality is now you even put things in a different perspective. You're a cop. You're a badass. You're out there carrying a gun, protecting people's lives. And you get to wear a hat if you want. So that's a plus. But I would say just keep. If you decide to use finasteride, great. That's really a great option. It can work for you. And again, we're not doctors. But if you can eventually get used to shaving your head and live that way, you win, man. And I would say that wearing a uniform, being badass, shaving your head, you're going to get plenty of women.
Well, I'm ready to be bald when the time comes, so I'm ready to face it head on.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to take some more calls, but thank you, officer.
Yeah. Thank you for
I'm going to call you officer.
Being patient.
Oh, listen, no problem, man. No worries.
I just
call anytime.
Kind of got overwhelmed and wasn't sure. I wasn't really structured in what I wanted to ask or what I wanted to talk about. But thanks for being patient.
No, I understand. You did a great job, and feel free to call anytime.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Phone number, 888-659-3727. If he told me he was a cop right away, I would have just been like, dude, shave your head, move on.
Yeah,
you're going to get all the
walk into a Hooters with your Kevlar vest on.
You're going to get all the pussy you want. You're a fucking police officer, dude.
Exactly. Hey, we got some questions from the members of the Belly Capelli forumfree.it forum, and I want to get to those because it is going on, I think, almost 11:20 at night in Italy. So I wanted to be able to
guys. So guys are holding on. Give us a few more minutes. We will take your calls. Hold on. We do have one line open now. So feel free to call 888-659-3727, but we will take your calls after we answer these questions.
All right. So question number one, they sent us, they didn't want to overwhelm us, so they only sent 3 questions. Hi, Spencer and Joe. I'm a 25-year-old boy. I just graduated, and I have a degree of baldness Norwood 3 to Norwood 4. My situation is very similar to that of other young people here in Europe. I have a limited budget and a great desire to have a hair transplant. I've consulted with the top quote-unquote doctors, but the price for 3,000 grafts that I need for FUE is too high. Don't you believe that this price difference pushes patients like me to look for offers in cheaper Turkish clinics? Don't you think that the top doctors should lower their prices a little to offer more options to people who do not have many resources? In addition, these low-cost clinics offer growth and touch-up guarantees if necessary. In case something went wrong in these clinics, you could lose maybe 2,000 to 3,000 euros and not 10,000 or more, as would be the case if you were treated by a top surgeon. That's a great question.
That's a really good question. First of all, I got to let you know that you're 25. You are not a boy.
That's the way they. That's just the way they talk.
You are a grown-ass man.
Exactly.
And you got a lot of, as a man of 25, there's a lot of pressure that's going to start happening. So get ready for that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let Joe answer this question fully. But I'm just going to say one thing. I understand your plight, and it does make sense. But the thing is, this is an elective procedure, and cosmetic surgery of any kind has historically never been inexpensive. The fact that cosmetic surgery is now being put into a commodity, being made into more of a commodity than ever before, the only reasonable way that's able to happen is by cutting corners and, sadly, really not providing, in general, the best possible services. So in order for anyone in, say, the UK or in the West, in Western Europe, or here in the United States, to be able to survive and offer the best possible service to patients, there's really, they would have to end up developing some sort of a chop shop model where they would not be able to provide patients with the best possible service.
Yeah.
Joe, go ahead.
Well, I think that one thing that's important to understand is that, in places like Turkey, the cost of living is a lot lower. So that's one reason why the cost is a lot lower. But they've also developed what is being known in the industry as the Turkish model, where you might have one doctor.
We coined that, by the way.
We did actually. Yeah, we coined that term. And you might have one doctor in the clinic, sometimes not. But if you do, it's just the one doctor, and they might draw the hairline, and you'll have an army of technicians taking care of 10 or sometimes even more patients in a day. And this brings into the equation the quality of what you get for your money. Now, I want to stop and just make it clear that there are some really good clinics in Turkey. There are some IAHRS accepted members that are Turkish hair transplant clinics and doctors that run them. But the vast majority of all the hair transplants being performed in Turkey are not being performed by IAHRS accepted members. They're being performed by these chop shops, as Spencer just put it. They're charging 1,500 euros all inclusive for as many grafts as you want, 5-star hotel, luxury car service to and from the airport, all the shit that doesn't matter to your final result. So do I think that clinics or top doctor clinics should lower the prices? I think that they should charge what the market allows them to charge. But at the same time, they also have to charge enough to be able to make a living. Because when you look at Germany, when you look at France, when you look at Belgium, when you look at the UK, cost of living in general is much higher. So they can't realistically offer these kinds of prices because in those countries they can't have this conveyor belt type of procedure where 10 to 15 patients are getting done in one day.
They wouldn't be able to even cover their rent. They wouldn't be able to cover their overhead. Forget about making a living.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, it is a tough problem. And it's one that a lot of people are talking about behind the scenes and publicly, like this question that you just asked.
He also brings up an interesting point that I think that we need to focus on. And he said, well, if things don't work out, you're only losing 2,000 euros compared to 10,000. No, if things don't work out, you're losing the opportunity to ever have a great hair transplant and possibly having to live with permanent disfigurement.
Right,
That's what
exactly.
you're losing.
Yeah, because a lot of things that we're seeing doctors in the West are seeing these patients coming back and they have depleted donor areas. And the saying used to be that if you go to a different clinic and you have a bad result, but it was a cheap price, that hair transplant will wind up being the most expensive hair transplant you can imagine because of the cost it takes to repair it. Now, in today's world, there's no cost that can repair it because the donor area on a lot of these patients is completely obliterated. There's just no hair left to move.
We were just involved in a conversation on a private Facebook group where I think it was Dr. Sansui Umar was stating that the biggest problem that he's finding is people who are coming back from these clinics. And this guy is a master as far as, really willing to work on patients who everyone claims and believes they can't be, they're unfixable. And you have seen some stuff where he's been able to fix these patients. When he's saying that he can't do anything, that is a bad sign.
Yeah.
Because this guy takes on some pretty bad cases that other doctors would just turn away.
I will agree with that. Dr. Umar does tend to lean toward almost like he's created a beacon out of his clinic for people that do have really extensive issues that very few doctors will take on, and he seems to be one of those doctors. So if he's saying that he can't do anything, then that's definitely a big problem. Moving on to the second question. Hi, Spencer and Joe. I have watched your show, and I've appreciated how you do believe that the world of hair transplantation is not evolving properly and that the results are actually getting worse in general. What do you think the solution to this trend is? How do we change it? And is it from educating doctors or patients? It's both. That's the problem. That's why we're seeing more worse results today, is because you have a lot more doctors getting into the procedure now that have no experience, they have no concept of what natural looks like, or they don't give a shit, because we're seeing so many results today where the hairlines are no better than what clinics were putting out 25, 30 years ago. I actually made a video about this. Celebrity hairline disasters, the Kyle Christie effect, where I'm talking about hairlines today by majority of these clinics that are performing FUE. They have no concept of the stereoscopic dissecting microscope because that is a tool of the strip surgery clinic. But what they don't realize is that is the one tool that makes for a natural result if it's used properly. You can't have a 100% natural result without the use of these microscopes because you can't see the single hair grafts. You can't see the hairs that are hiding in the tissue that are in telogen that are going to come out in the next anagen phase, creating a double or a triple hair graft. It is the differentiator between high quality, natural looking work and just okay work at best. Patients are not being educated properly. They need to be educated more because they don't know what to expect. They think that just having a hairline that looks thick, damned be the naturalness, is the only thing that matters. I've got people telling me this on my YouTube channel, responding to some of my videos saying if it's thick, then nothing else matters. And that's just not the way to look at it. So
well, I'm going to be even more direct, and I think that was that's smart information. That's a great education that you're giving the guy who asked the question, and for those who are listening. But here's the reality. As Denzel Washington so eloquently said in American Gangster, in the hair transplant industry, it is every fucking gorilla for himself. It is not a one for all for one type of mentality. And the reality is that the physicians out there, organizations like the ISHRS, have the ability and the numbers to truly educate consumers and to take back control of this insane industry. But they have handed over the reins to the device makers and to anyone who has the idea to pick up a punch or buy a turnkey machine and put up a shingle saying that they're hair transplant experts and specialists. If you go to India today, there's a shop on every block that's popping up. Turkey, every day, new shops are popping up. Here in the U.S., just in the state of California, around my studio, there are 80, there may be more as of this week, machines that are currently being used in a 3-mile radius or 4-mile radius by guys who have never performed hair transplants in their lives. There is no effort for everyone to come together. They are too busy competing against themselves and trying to fucking get leads because they're losing so much business to these turnkey operators or these cosmetic surgery tourism. Instead of focusing on what the real problems are and finding a solution, they're finding every other way to spend their time or to try to create leads or try to create some sort of diversion, as opposed to just educating patients, educating physicians, saying, you know what, if you're not doing this way, you can't fucking belong to our group. That's it. They don't have the fucking balls to do it. They don't have the wherewithal to do it, and they are choosing not to do it.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry that that comes out as harsh. I'm sorry for those when I'm in front of this tribunal next week who are going to say that I continue to bash the ISHRS. I'm not bashing the ISHRS. I'm saying that you guys as an organization have the opportunity. And when guys like, I don't know, Ricardo Mejia, for instance, ask, well, if you can do this, Spence, why don't you just flip that switch and make it happen? Well, I can do it. We can make this happen. But if you undermine everything that we try to do with some happy horse shit that you put out online, or saying that the IHRS or that Spencer Kobren or that Joe Tillman or what we're doing isn't necessarily in the best interest of the patient because it bruises some egos and because your colleagues are doing such shitty work that you allow into your organization that you're afraid that they're going to leave you, then how are we supposed to do our job? What's the point? You know what we do? We allow the guys who find our program, find my resources to get this education. But if you want that switch to flip, and for this to change, and for guys to truly be out of danger, you guys can come on board. You guys can work under our fucking umbrella, and we can make it happen. Sorry. I had to go there.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
That's the reality.
Imagining the transcription on the Italian forum. that's awesome. He's going to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But that's my Italian accent. Yeah. Final question. Hi, Spencer and Joe. Many doctors that I have contacted assure that the results of the hair transplant are permanent, especially if you follow a treatment with finasteride. Unfortunately, I chanced to see that friends who have had surgery some years ago with good doctors who employed strip and FUE have lost part of their implanted hair. What is your opinion about this? Is there really a safe zone, or should the doctors tell their patients that the grafts implanted can fall out in a few years?
That's a great fucking question, man.
Great question. That's the great thing about Belly Capelli forum members. They've always got great questions.
These are smart guys, man. They're very well-informed dudes.
Very well-informed.
Fucking Italians, man. Who knew? I mean, they should come to my forum, too, or at least call into the show. So are these guys not speaking English?
A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. Well, a lot of them do, but they're afraid to try because they don't think that their English is very good. Meanwhile, their grammar and pronunciation is better than any native English speaker I've ever met.
I want these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that no clinic should tell their patients that that the hair transplant will be 100% permanent. The reason why they say this, two reasons. Number one, it makes you feel better about spending so much money. But number two, that was the general idea for many, many, many years because of the original theory of donor dominance. The theory of donor dominance dictates that the donor hair is genetically resistant to the causes of male pattern hair loss no matter where it's placed. So you take it out from the back and sides of the scalp, and that's supposed to be resistant to DHT because we all get that horseshoe if we get really bald. We place it on top. It'll continue to grow completely oblivious to the issue of DHT. We're finding out, or we started finding out about 15 years ago, that that is not the case for all patients. There are patients out there where the hair transplant will thin over time. There are patients that have not had a surgery, or people that have not had surgery, and their donor area will thin. Now, is it because of the hair falling out, or is it because of what's called senile alopecia, where the hair shaft miniaturizes over time? The answer is yes. It can be from both. Sometimes it can be from both at the same time. Sometimes it can be one or the other. But those issues are rare in the grand scheme of things. So I think that no one should say or expect that a hair transplant is 100% permanent, but they should expect some degree of permanency for the majority of the hairs that are transplanted.
Now, I'm going to contradict you on one point. We didn't find this out 15 years ago. Do you think that Norman Ohrenreich
found that out 10 years ago.
Didn't recognize this after 20 years? So he started in the late 50s. Didn't recognize that the patients that he originally transplanted for 4 or 5 or however huge plugs into their scalp eventually, some of these guys started to lose that hair. They saw this shit. They didn't write about it in the fucking textbooks. Everyone knew about it. It was an industry that's been commoditized since the very beginning. And that's what kills me, that why these guys are all of a sudden so upset about what's happening in the industry. You guys led the way. You guys set the path for this commodity. You guys didn't give full disclosure. You guys didn't tell patients the truth.
Yeah.
That's why we are where we are today. So to answer your question, yes, I do believe that every physician on their website, on their, at least on their consent forms, and most of them should have this on their consent form, should have a clause where it states clearly that there's no guarantee that this hair, even if it grows, is going to be permanent for a lifetime. So I absolutely think there should be full disclosure. Any more questions?
That is it.
All right, guys, 888-659-3727. Let's take the phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from? Hey, man, you're on the air.
Bruce. Hey, this is Bruce. How you doing?
Hey, Bruce, where are you calling from again?
Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, what's happening?
How you doing?
Man, I was trying to cook dinner for my wife.
Oh, well, good luck with that.
Okay.
No. Hey guys, good to hear from you guys.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
No, she's not home yet. I just had a question on the, since all these finasteride questions are popping up, and I mean they're great questions, and I appreciate you guys a lot. When I had my transplant, I guess 7 months ago, I had years ago. Let me back up a little bit. I got a doctor that was going to a low T clinic that told me offered the finasteride for the hair loss, and I didn't take it serious because I didn't know a lot about it, or I'd heard about it, but I heard all the negative side effects. So I kind of did it for a little while and brushed it off to the side like a lot of guys do. But now that I'm aware and know of the benefits, and especially listening to you guys now for a while, I got on it after this transplant. I guess about a month or so after. And I've had a little bit of the skin irritation break out at first up there, with like some, I guess the red pimples break out, whatever. And I've been reading a lot about how that could be natural or that could be normal, I guess. And I was wondering if that's normal, one. And number two, I've seen a little bit of small shedding, but it doesn't look like anything from the transplanted area, just maybe some of the native hair. So I'll let y'all make me feel better about this or whatever.
Okay, so what you're saying is since you started using finasteride, you're noticing some sort of a inflammatory response around your native hair, not the transplanted hair?
Yeah, well, no, both native and transplant, just on my scalp in general.
Well, here's what happened, just so you know. I mean, and again, we are not physicians, but once you start to take anything that alters the hormones in your body, and from what I remember, you're already taking like TRT and stuff, right?
Well, I'm not now, but I did probably a couple of years ago. I stopped doing it.
Okay.
Just because I got too busy to do it and keep up with it. But I'm not. My levels are real low. I mean, they're under 200. So. Okay.
Well, you can have similar. You can have some effects that you can cause, slight dermatological issues, inflammatory issues. Some guys get breakouts from the use of finasteride. Usually it's a temporary, as you're kind of getting your hormonal balance and your body adjusts to the drug. There's a lot of reasons why this could be happening. Are you using anything that's topical as well?
No.
Okay.
But I have been putting, using like hair cream and some hairspray and stuff like that now that I can style it and do those things because I'm out of the hat.
Around the same time, was this around the same time you started to use finasteride, that you started to use different products?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I would do is switch your products up. Maybe try to find something that has that's more naturally based, but stay away from products for a while. Put the hat back on for a couple of days, and see how your scalp does.
Okay.
And it could be what you're using. It's more likely, in my view, and again, I'm not a doctor, of what you're using topically. And hairspray can cause people to have a lot of irritation. I'm pretty lucky with that, where it doesn't happen to me because I wear a fucking pound of hairspray. But anything that actually touches your scalp, a lot of these products have, irritants. Some people will have contact dermatitis from them and other issues. So you might want to just stay away from the products for a while. If you use anything, try to find something that's 100% natural and organic. They won't be as good, but if you don't need much of it, it could help. And see if you see any change in your scalp.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, but it's something. It has. It's not nothing you've never heard of, right? What I'm talking about.
No, it's not like you are the anomaly and your head is going to explode or anything like that. I've heard of this with finasteride, but I always ask if someone has added something, either a topical medication or if they're using something on their scalp, because usually that's the first line of attack. If you go to a dermatologist, they're going to ask you what you're putting on your scalp.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
No, and usually you want to work through the process of elimination. Right now, you're on finasteride. You feel you have no other adverse side effects. If I were you, and I'm not a doctor, I would eliminate whatever I'm using topically. It could be, if you're using 2 products, eliminate one. Or actually, I would do this. I would probably eliminate both, and then add in one at a time and see if you get any type of irritation.
Okay, that's a good idea there. I appreciate that. Let's see, the other thing real quick, though, all these, Gala, you got to stay away from the internet when it comes to reading shit because you just, start freaking out. But all these other guys that freak out when you read these forums on hair loss talk about the shedding and all that, everything, I don't know why these guys are so worried about it because from what I understand, it's temporary, and then whatever you have to come back is stronger or whatever you have remains strong. So,
well, in most cases, it's temporary. Some guys, for whatever reason, they have an adverse effect where they go through a telogen effluvium, and it's just the hair just not, it doesn't come back. It's very rare. However, anytime you go, through that emotional roller coaster. It sucks. So people are terrified, especially if they've already lost a lot of hair. They're terrified of looking worse before they look better. And I get that.
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys reading Bald Truth Talk or coming on Bald Truth Talk, it's great for what I do. It's important for what we do, and it helps support what we do. But I always tell people, just take everything with a grain of salt. There are other forums out there that, in my view, are a lot more militant, and there's a lot of stuff that's allowed to happen and that goes on that is not necessarily in the patient's best interest. So we try to keep ours as heavily moderated as possible, which for some people it turns them off because they figure, oh, there's censorship on this forum. It's not about censorship. It's about, we just want to provide information that's really educational, let people read. If there's a lot of nasty comments or comments that may not be really helpful or relevant, then we try to, we suggest that doctors don't, patients don't allow that stuff, or they don't post that stuff.
And I hope you realize how necessary you two guys are, Joe and Spence, because I mean, it's I hear the talk about, hey, don't get a hair transplant, do all this, but for the, I'm going to be 52 next month, so the guys who have, screwed up down in the past and had things done years ago and needed corrections or revisions or whatever, and it's kind of like, because some of us have already fucked up and gone down that road, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And so for those of us who have, we do need to get the best of whatever, especially as you age and get older, because when you spend your hard-earned dollars, you want to make sure, hey, this is done right. You don't want to, you know how shady the business is already. You don't want to be getting, you know what I'm saying. It's just kind of like
all I could say is that anybody who goes out there and says on YouTube or anywhere else that you can be your own mentor really does not understand this industry whatsoever. And the reality is, yes, you can do all the research you want and you can learn from those who've had experiences. But unless you take the time to take that information and then learn from people who have been around the industry for many, many years and who have seen things that these guys have never seen or know that's even possible, then you're not doing your due diligence. So we appreciate you saying what you're saying, Bruce, and it really means a lot that I still feel, let's put it this way, I still feel compelled to do what I do, even though I'm in a position in life where I don't necessarily, and sometimes I don't want to do it because the industry itself pisses me off. I'm like, Jesus Christ, no matter what we do, these doctors are such, in general, there's so many doctors out there, there's so many bad guys out there. It just kills me. But guys like you find us, and there are thousands of them. At least they get to hear this information.
Yeah.
One thing that, and forgive me, Bruce, I got a little distracted by something going on in the chat room. But the thing that the problem I have with forums today, and I'm going to reference something I saw in the fairly recent past, is a patient went online and he wanted to talk about his results. He was happy with his results. This wasn't even posted by a clinic. It was a patient talking about his results. He was happy with his results, and he had a very specific question that had nothing to do with the actual results. It was just a post-op recovery question. There were members of this forum that piled on top of him, telling him how shitty his hairline looked.
Wow.
Wow. I'm talking about some members were saying,
but half of those guys are a bunch of jackasses, and they wish they could even afford one themselves. You got to remember these guys. Yeah.
They're self-professed experts that sit at their keyboards and they look at 100 pictures from different clinics, and they think that they know what they're talking about. And the problem is that, look, I have no problem with calling out bad work, but if someone's happy with that bad work, who are these people to tell them this? There are very specific instances where, you have to pick and choose these battles where you can talk about these things. But when someone's coming on and they're happy with the result and they're asking about something that has nothing to do with the result, and yet these assholes want to pile on and talk about how horrible it looks, and he should have gone to this clinic or that clinic, and or they should consider clinic X for repair. That is just that is so horrible. I mean, that person that posted these questions is a real person, and they're sitting there like, what the hell just happened?
Well, I made it clear, and I made this clear on Facebook groups and elsewhere that, and this is where physicians they don't get it. They think they're like, well, this is the internet and anything could happen. No. Everyone who owns any resource online, it's a private resource. There is no such thing as having to give people permission to bash doctors or to harm each other in any way or to bash other people in the industry. Or that is a choice that is made by the forum owners and moderators, period. That's the way that it works. Freedom of speech, you can't go into somebody's place of business, their brick and mortar place in business, and start screaming at them that they're a motherfucker and I'm going to kill you, or you're a piece of shit, or whatever it is. Yeah, maybe that's freedom of speech, but this is a private business. That person would get hauled away. There's no difference in the online world, and people feel that there somehow is. Like, you have to allow this stuff to happen. I speak to doctors who support message forums out there who are just like, what can we do? There's nothing that we can do. You know what you can do? You can talk with your dollars, man. That's it. Don't allow this to happen to your patients. Don't allow this to happen to your practice. Don't allow this to happen to your field. But these guys, in my view, in general, there's a lot of idiots out there. They believe that this is the way the internet works. And, sadly, look, I took a stand years ago. I did not want to get into the forum game. I was asked to do this by a group of doctors who felt that what was out there was very damaging to their patients and to the field. And I had always agreed on that. So you know what? I started Bald Truth Talk. And it's the most trafficked forum currently in the world that has no back end. And I always preface that by saying it has no back end because when you don't have a PMing system, you can lose up to 50% of your traffic. So to have that much true transparency where everything is public means that people are learning and reading. So I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent here, but Joe's right. Yeah. Joe is 100% right. Somebody goes out there and wants to put their information out there and puts their face out there, and then all of a sudden people are saying, these self-proclaimed experts are saying, oh, you got a shitty job? That's horrible, man.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'd like to say one more comment about how good of a guy you guys are, and Joe, what you just said, because, I'll just give this one scenario that when you had that celebrity guy from the UK, and you talked about his the hairline, and I saw your YouTube segment on that, and you didn't have that on there to call him out or to punk him out or to whatever, or shame him. You had him on there to point out whatever the mistakes were, and a guy like you who is an expert can point these things out. But at the end of the day, when you're hanging up the phone or doing whatever behind the scenes that people don't know the hard work you do, you're helping that guy get what he needs, where he needs to be to get the things done right. And these other yahoos that sit there, like you said, in the chat room and say all this stuff, like you said, who knows? They're probably living with their mom, 35 years old. Who knows what they're doing? But you're the guy that's out there helping these people behind the scenes. Yeah, you can critique it, but you're not critiquing it to sit there and belittle that guy. You're critiquing that man to help him out, to maybe shoot him in the right direction if he can be salvaged.
Well, I appreciate
that's
that.
How I feel.
He contacted me. He said, and he even said in a follow-up videos where I'm interviewing him, he's like, "You're actually spot on." He's like, "That's exactly what I've been dealing with," and that's why he wears the bandanas on TV. I don't know if I released the episode where he's talking about. I think I did. That was the last one I did. There's like another hour of footage of him talking about how it's affected him and what people say to him. So I appreciate that. But it's just sad. I mean, I don't like that. I think it's unnecessary. And people have talked about how Spencer's censoring free speech. It's like, no, he's not. he's he's preventing some people from being really ugly to others, and I commend that.
We're preventing people from being harmed. That's it.
Here's the psychology spin on it. That guy grows up one day. You had a gentleman I remember a week or so ago called in, and he was doing all this stuff, helping his son out. Y'all remember that guy?
Yeah, I did.
Even in the Medicaid. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Let's say one of these guys that are real critical like that, and they want to just do this. That's not gossip. Gossip is behind the back kind of stuff. But let's say they want to go and shame this person. And let's say 20 years from now, they got a son going through the same thing, and the son gets a hair transplant. He goes on, and everybody just punks him out. You know, with the guy that was doing it 20 years ago, does he want that done to his son one day? Probably not.
Absolutely.
You know, so that things come around. You got to be careful what you say and do, because that karma is real.
Well, listen, I agree completely, and I feel that way about everything. Anybody that any professional in this field that has concerned about what we do on the program or what I say, and I'm very outspoken when it comes to the organizations and everything that's out there. Look, we're just out there telling the truth, and frankly, like this guy, he called us to ask about his kid because he was concerned about his kid.
Yeah.
Period. There's nobody that would reasonably be out there who's saying that what we're doing is somehow questionable. If they were to ask about their children, they would really want them to find this program before anything else, or to find Bald Truth Talk.
And the last thing these guys that are were saying that one guy in the chat room, like they don't want them talking bad about their son one day, or family. It could be a dad, a family. I just pointed that out as an example.
Yeah, and it's a good example. Well, listen, man, we're going to let you cook dinner for your wife, man. Thank you so much for the call and the support. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, good talking to you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling.
All right.
One more call?
Yes, one more call.
All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. It's Nico. How's it going?
Nico, you got in. How are you?
I did. Made it in. I'm good. How are you guys doing? Okay?
All right. Yeah. What's up?
A couple questions. One was actually quickly to Joe. Joe, I know you mentioned a couple times about that guy who flew in from Tanzania, I believe, to show you his results on Lonadin. Was that from where he was from, maybe?
He's from Tasmania.
Tasmania. All right, there you go. My bad.
Yeah,
I was wondering.
Think of Tasmanian Devil on the cartoons.
Yeah, totally. You'd mentioned something about he was like a Norwood 6. I was just curious, like, how big of a turnaround he had when he came to see you.
Dude, it was like...
From using Lonadin.
Well, the pictures that he sent were... he was a diffused Norwood 6. And the level of diffuseness was... Not only was a pattern very obvious, but the scalp was obvious. It was just a light covering of hair. And then when he showed up... He was like a Norwood 2.
Wow. Jesus.
I mean, it was incredible. The density was not native density, but it was strong enough to where it was only when I was looking closely that I could see that the density was greatly lower than what native density was, but it was strong enough. All the hairs are terminal, right? So if you have lower density but with terminal hairs as opposed to higher density and miniaturized hairs, the terminal hair situation is going to look stronger, obviously, depending on what the actual count is. But it looked like he never lost his hair to anyone on the street. That's how dramatic it was. Blew me away. I mean, hands down, the biggest medical turnaround I've ever seen with hair loss, bar none.
Wow. So sick. Okay, cool. I was just curious how big of a turnaround it was. Nice. I guess I was also wondering if Lonadin and or finasteride is just, so my question is shock loss hair, permanent shock loss hair permanent? Is there anything that you could see maybe Lonadin or finasteride ever bringing back anything that was lost that is quote unquote permanent?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it depends on why it's permanently shocked. I mean, if it's from physical trauma, like a scalpel or a punch actually destroying it, then it's gone. If it's from a lack of blood flow because of the pressure of a strip closure.
Yeah.
Once it's dead, it's dead. If that's the cause. That's the cause. you typically can't make hair grow in an area where no viable follicles exist.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it might, like, you might get some sort of peach fuzz from, or you might extend the anagen phase on some hairs that are miniaturized or something. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. But typically, if it's destroyed from some sort of mechanism that caused actual permanent shock loss, then it's not coming back.
Okay. And is quote unquote a tight. So when we've talked about tight closures in the past, is when I've talked to my doctor about the kind of closure I had a double layer closure. Can a tight closure happen on any type of closure if it's done too tightly, or is it a specific? I don't know if that makes sense, because I always have those crazy questions where it's not always specific. But can any closure that's done period just end up being too tight if it's not done correctly? Does that make sense?
Well, by definition, if it's too tight, it's not done correctly, because it means that not something that can be blamed every time on the doctor, because when you're dealing with strip surgery, an experienced doctor will be measuring the or testing the laxity before and during the procedure. The best way to take out a strip is to, in my opinion, just based on my experience, the best way to take out a strip is to do it in sections, and that way you can modulate the width more specifically. You test the laxity, push the scalpel along so you can go in between the hairs, not pulling it, because it's a lot more difficult to see, and adjusting the width based on the level of laxity in specific areas. I mean, it changes literally from 1 centimeter to the next. It can be tighter, it can be looser, it can be tighter, it can be looser. So it has to be modulated to account for that. So, I've seen cases where, the scalp feels like it's really, really loose. You can get 3 centimeter wide strip, and then you get in there, and one part of the strip actually isn't quite as loose as we thought, and you got to really dig your heels in to close it up, and it's tighter, and then temporary shock loss sets in, and then eventually comes back. But still, it's because of just unforeseen circumstances. That's one of the challenges with strip surgery. You can't always get it right every time, and it's not necessarily the doctor's fault, because it's just a variable that you can't nail down every time.
All right.
That's it,
dude.
You
mentioned. Okay, cool. Fuck, damn it.
It's 4 o'clock. We got to go.
No, I'll let you boys go. Enjoy.
All right.
And I'll hit you guys up another time.
Nico, always a pleasure. All right, one last question. You're making me feel bad now. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Fuck, now I forgot my damn question. Okay, so I guess I hate to ask the obligatory finasteride question. I'm still trying to figure out if it's working for me, because I'm getting some darkening in the crown, but I'm still shedding a shitload. I've been on it for about 9 months. Is the always, and I know I don't go to the forums, Spence, I hear you.
Go to our forum, at least just click on it once a day.
Right.
Yeah.
The question is, it always comes up about give it a year to see how it goes. Would you say in my situation, since I'm seeing some progress, but I also feel like I'm regressing a little, that it can take up to a year and a half, 2 years to really see if it's working?
I know a guy who I've known since from the bars when I was hanging out at 21, 22, who started to take the drug around the same time that I did, and he thought he was getting no results. And then it took him 2 years before he really recognized that he grew back a lot of hair. 2 years, 24 months. Now, that's unusual, but I have, in my personal life, I've seen that. So I would say absolutely. And again, we're not physicians, but you got to give it at least a year. And I would say as long as you're not having any adverse side effects or any crazy, effluviums, then just stick it out, and you may see something in 15 months or, 18 months, and all of a sudden say, shit, this is really working for me.
Yeah, I'm still just trying to figure out if it is working for me, because I have some crown growth, but a lot of effluvium. My side effects have subsided with the sexual shit, all that stuff, but I've even had, I know you said hormones take time to readjust, but nail ridging and stuff like that I've had come up. I don't know if that's related or not, but all right, I didn't want to take up your guys' time. But
nail ridging could be related to a lot of different issues.
Yeah.
So that's you should definitely get that checked out.
All right.
All right.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a great
man.
weekend.
I don't mean to scare you. I mean, it could be
you.
nothing. It could just be.
No, it could just be aging. I know. I've looked it up. It could be a shitload of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm looking at my nails.
Fellas.
Jesus.
Okay. I'm sorry to make you OCD about it.
All right, dude.
Okay.
Take care.
Enjoy.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you, Nico. Have a good weekend.
Take care. You too. Bye.
That's 2 hours out of my life looking at my nails later. All right, guys, listen, thank you so much for tuning in. Another great program. I think having the questions sent in from the forums is a really good idea. Yeah. And not our forums, not Bald Truth Talk, but the Italian forum. Maybe we can get some stuff from Hair Loss Experiences. Yep. Get these guys more involved. Now, personally, I would prefer you guys to call in, but if you guys cannot make that happen, we will continue to do this. And I want to apologize to, as he's known online as Bolito, right?
No, Bola.
Bola, sorry. What is Bolito?
Bolito is, it's a long story.
Okay.
Little Bola is what it means in Spanish.
I know that translating what I said and my passion may be difficult, but that's the reality of this industry. And I apologize that I throw around a lot of F-bombs. You know, I may be going back on the radio in New York, and I'm going to have to start practicing because I cannot throw around any F-bombs.
That's right, yeah.
I realize the reason why we're still on iHeart is because it's an app.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though I was told not to do it, they still, you know, it's... You know, the FCC doesn't regulate it.
Exactly.
However, if I go back on the radio, you know, I have to do a completely, like, I do a blue show here. I got to do a completely clean program. That may be tough. But I may have actually installed my own delay, just in case.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. All right, guys, listen, thank you so much. The baldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. I know this site has not been updated in a while. We have a whole bunch of shows and clips in the can to update, but still subscribe, thebaldtruth.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Go to The Bald Truth on iTunes through the GFQ network, and just take the time to subscribe. The more subscribers we have and the more downloads we have, the better for this program and the better for the industry. Again, everything is free. We do not charge a fee to listen to this broadcast. I will not put this show behind a paywall. Frankly, I think that's a failing model for too many really great broadcasts. It's a successful model for some, but in most cases, it's I think it's a big no-no in the world of internet broadcasting. But listen, that's just my thing.
Unless we start getting more trolls, and then we'll take it into a pay model just to keep them out, because few people want to pay to be a troll.
Well, listen, if you get trolls, you could. Is there a way to cut off the chat?
Oh yeah, it's been done tonight. We had a FUE/1 that was causing some problems. He knows what I'm talking about, by the way.
Oh, well, whatever. I don't even read the chat. I mean, sometimes I do. But most of the time, I'm trying to just take care of the show. But I did see some stuff.
Well, I have to moderate it because when one person is being kind of nasty to another, it's kind of in a teasing fashion. It's not necessary. So guys in the chat room,
that's your fucking thing. Do your thing.
Be big boys.
Yeah, I just
don't be children.
I just want to do the show.
Exactly.
You do your thing.
I want to say real quick, FSK. Our boy from the UK, going to have his surgery next Tuesday, if I remember correctly, this coming Tuesday. Good luck with it. I wish you all the best. Say hi to the doc for me.
Best of luck, man. Best of luck.
And I hope you let us know how it goes when you get back.
I hope you actually call into the broadcast to let us know.
Wednesday. Okay. Next show I'll be getting ready for. Oh, next show he'll be getting. Okay. So our next show is Tuesday. His procedure's Wednesday morning. So, all right. I still mean it. Good luck.
Yeah. Call us on Friday. Let us know what happens.
Exactly. So.
And Joe, why don't you give out everyone's website who's helping us out to spread the word?
Yep. We'll start off with our Italian friends that were on bellicapelli.forumfree.it. It is the Italian authority on hair loss and hair restoration. As far as forums go, it's a huge forum. And we love working with them because Bola, the proprietor of that web property, he's a hell of a nice guy. He says he's just a guy, but we like to say he's a hell of a nice guy, and he's not a psychopath, which is a great thing. He supports what we do. He believes in what we do because he's a repair patient, and he has been involved with some bad characters. In fact, running his forum, he sees a lot of bad work as well from all over Europe, and so we're glad to be a part of what he does, and we're glad to have him to be part of what we do. He supports the program. He allows us to stream the Bald Truth through his property, which is bellicapelli.forumfree.it. There's also Hair Loss Experiences, primarily a UK forum, but this being the interwebs, we've all got access to it, which is obvious because it's growing like crazy, and we love having him on board, and we love that he allows us to broadcast, stream through his website. That is hairlossexperiences.com. Another great guy to work with. Go to both of these forums and let them know that you appreciate their support of what we do.
Also, check out the Guys from Queens Network at guysfromqueens.com. They are the official syndicators, online syndicators of this broadcast. They are the syndicators who syndicate us through iHeartRadio and iTunes Radio and Stitcher Radio and all of the other web and app properties that people can tune in to this broadcast. Andrew Zarian came to me many years ago, and he was really trying to get me to be a part of the Guys from Queens Network because I'm from New York and all that stuff. And he hounded me and basically said, look, everybody digs the Bald Show. I want to syndicate the Bald Show. And you know how I am, Joe.
I do.
Don't trust anybody. You know, what's the angle here? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Turned out that it was an incredible move for us. Andrew's become a very, very close friend. And you guys should check out some of his shows if you like technology. What the Tech with Paul Thurrott and Andrew Zarian is one of the most popular online tech shows on the internet. Also, if you like pro wrestling, this guy is a renaissance man. If you like
fiend.
Pro wrestling, check out Mat Men, another really great show. And it's very possible that both these shows will be on radio soon as well with the Bald Truth. So a lot of good things happening for the Guys from Queens Network and Andrew Zarian. I want to congratulate him on all of his success. And again, thank him for seeing the Bald Show for what it is. This was a guy at the time who had no hair loss. None. Just a kid.
Yep.
And he's like, I want to syndicate this broadcast. So guysfromqueens.com. Check out all of their broadcasts. And that's it. The American Hair Loss Association, AmericanHairLoss.org, the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, IAHRS.org. Going to be a lot of changes happening this year with the IAHRS. We are expanding our reach significantly. Looking forward to our first meeting with FUE Europe in Manchester, England, next June 2019. And it will be really the meeting, hair transplant meeting of the year. And frankly, just like FUE Magazine, I consider it more of an open source conference where
I like that, open source.
Consumers are going to have the opportunity, at least 1 or 2 sessions, to be a part of things, to see how things really run from the inside. No more closed door bullshit. You know, this has been made into a commodity. You know what? Let the consumers in. Let them know what's going on. Let them learn from the real experts in the field instead of all the bullshit that's out there online. So I want to thank FUE Europe for doing their things. And you can check out FUE Magazine. There's going to be a new edition coming out at FUEmagazine.com. That is the first open source hair transplant journal ever. And that's a very, very big deal. For anyone who thinks that, from the other organizations and guys who think that this may not be, that this isn't a real thing, it's not a real journal because it's online, you are looking at the future of medical journals. Most of the mainstream journals are struggling now on whether or not they should consider doing something open source because they understand how important that is. This is the first open source journal of its kind in cosmetic surgery, and I think it's going to be a fantastically well-read and successful publication, and I'm looking forward to it. And Joe's got a nice article in there.
Thank you.
I didn't read it, but I understand that it's nice.
If they get those last-minute edits in, because
Yeah.
the title is completely opposite of what it should be. My bad.
And
Yeah.
I know that I have an article in there, so let's hope that they got that straight. I think that they did.
We hope.
Yeah. But anyway, it's exciting times, I think. I think that, sadly, the hair transplant industry is devolving, but, there's very specific times in the world and in life where you can have the opportunity to affect change. The time is now, and it's perfect to leverage the power of truth. We've never had a better time. I mean, I had a very small window in 1998 to make it happen, and I did. That window is now open again.
Yeah.
So let's make that happen. Any more websites? That's it.
That's it. hairtransplantmentor.com.
Yes.
You can follow my journey, see where I started, and how I even got here, which I'm not really sure how it worked, but here I am. Website documents the whole thing, so check it out.
Yeah, it's a good website. It's a little scary to look at those pictures, what happened to Joe initially, but look at him now. God bless him. Yeah. All right, guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And the funny thing is,